Darling, what's going on this time? Melinda woke up late. She lay there smiling, remembering the night before. Ken, her husband, had just returned from a 2-week trip, the longest in their 9-year marriage. He played and fiddled with their 7-year-old son until his manic joy at having his father home faded. Then a simple dinner and bedtime. Later, when there was silence in the house, she snuggled gently against him on the couch. "I hope you left some energy for us," she whispered, stroking his cheek. 2 weeks, my love. I swear, if this trip hadn't worked out, I was ready to drop everything. We don't need the money so badly that I'd ever be away from you and Kenny for so long again. She smiled in the dim light, thinking of how many CEO husbands could make that statement, and she knew he meant every word. When they went to bed, each thought of restraining their passion, but it was useless. They mated like tigers, hard, fast, surrendering to primal desires. Later, they explored each other's bodies as if trying to reclaim their territory, leisurely going over every square centimeter. "Just the news, dear. Then I intend to take 4 days off and spend every minute loving you and Kenny." His kiss held many promises. She got up, took a bath, and dressed in his favorite sundress. The housekeeper had to walk Kenny to school to give her a chance to sleep. She heard the soft humming repeated 3 times and stopped, then repeated as she brushed her hair. It was a state-of-the-art system. The beeping signaled that an intruder was in the house. At first, she thought Mrs. Miller had forgotten to reset it when she took Kenny to school. It was a bad habit of hers. But she remembered her husband's repeated admonition to never take anything for granted, and went to check. In her kitchen, sticking his head in the refrigerator, stood a man she didn't recognize. "Who are you? What do you want?" The man turned around with a bottle of orange juice and poured a glass before he spoke. "May I pour you a glass? No? Then call me Dave." "Yes, Dave. I've always liked that name. And I'm the man who kidnapped your son. You sure you don't want some juice?" It took a second for his words to reach consciousness. "What?" He smirked. "I kidnapped your son. Well, not me, physically. My partner did. It's my responsibility to negotiate. You know, negotiate payments, the return of your son, that sort of thing." He was surprised at her calmness. "How do I know you're not just bluffing?" He sighed and held out his phone to her. There was a picture of Kenny bound and gagged on the floor of the van. She turned slightly pale. "What do you want?" she asked in a trembling voice. The man smiled broadly. "Not that much. Just all your liquid assets. I've done the research. Here's the list." He slid the papers apart. There was pretty accurate data. Bank balances, stock portfolios, safety deposit boxes. There were also instructions on where to send the money. "Isn't technology grand?" he said, grinning openly. "First we'll go to the bank to get the safe deposit boxes, and then we'll come back here for the transfers. While we wait, you and I are going to have a little fun, my personal bonus, so to speak. If you resist or refuse, my partner will get a call. He'll give you a thumbs up. Do we understand each other?" Cold fury flashed in her eyes, but she nodded. "Let me get my purse." He smiled and picked up the glass of juice. Melinda returned, and they stepped out onto her deck. Dave looked at her car. "Wow, a Cadillac CTS-V. I've always wanted to ride in one of those. You don't mind, do you?" She reached into her purse, but pulled out a Ruger Point .22 caliber pistol instead of her keys. Dave jumped back, waving his arms. "Lady, don't do anything stupid. It's only money." She raised her gun and fired, shooting him in the pinky toe on his right foot. He screamed and rolled around on the deck. He rolled towards her, and she ran the gun across his cheek, opening a rather deep wound. She walked over to the hot tub and grabbed some towels, tossing them to him. "It's not just money. It's my baby, asshole. Now wrap a towel around him to stop the bleeding, and stop crying like a little bitch." He managed to sit down in a chair and started ranting about what was going to happen to her son. She pointed the gun right between his eyes. "Hey, ladies, stop! We can work something out." She smiled, and he thought that with her pale skin and white sundress, she looked like an angel of death. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to pull out your cell phone, call your partner, and get me my ambulance. If he's 15 minutes away, I'll shoot you again. You have 3 minutes. Dave was ranting, swearing. He was stalling for time. When the 3 minutes were up, she shot him in the top of his wounded leg. He screamed and cried. She tossed him more towels. 3 minutes, then through the ankle. The next 3 minutes, kneecap. After 3 minutes, I'll shoot one of your balls off. 3 minutes later, the second one. After that, I'll consider you lost and watch you bleed to death. He looked at her hatefully, but dialed the phone number. We're done. Bring him back and drop him at the end of the road. I'll meet you there. Be careful. She stood next to him and listened because she had him on speakerphone. She put the shaft in his ear. If you get lascivious, that means you'll come with a gun drawn or hurt my son. And you won't live to see noon. Understand? Fuck you. I'll call the police. Her smile grew even wider. Do you know who my husband is? He's retired military from the intelligence community. His company has only one client, the US government. Threatening me and kidnapping my son would be considered terrorism. I hope you like tropical climates. You and your buddy will probably end up in Gitmo, never to be seen again. I'll ask a favor and put you in with the real terrorists. That should be a lot of fun for you. Dave grinned through the pain. It will be your word against mine. I've disabled your security system. She laughed again. You mean that bundle of wires we have for show? The real system is wireless, state-of-the-art, with satellite communications. I press one button on my phone, and the information is instantly transmitted to my husband and the military. She didn't turn off her phone, and soon saw a van pull up to the house and stop. A man without a child got out, holding a shotgun. She showed it to Dave. Call him and tell him to drop every weapon he has. If you don't, and I shoot him, my son better be in that van. If he's not, you're in for a very torturous existence. Dave believed her. He called and told his partner to put the gun away and bring the kid in. The other man was huge, with pumped muscles. He smiled until he saw Dave with a bloody towel on his leg and a woman holding a gun. That's right, sweetie. Just send him to me, and everything will be fine. Damn, she thought. She'd been trying to get rid of her southern accent for years, but it still showed up when she was really tense. He hesitated until Dave warned him, Don't do anything stupid, kid. She'll kill you. She looked at her son lying in his arms. Anger threatened to consume her. What's wrong with him? Relax, lady. We knocked him out with the gas. He'll wake up in about an hour with a slight headache. We haven't done any damage yet. She realized she was grinding her teeth, something she hadn't done since she was a teenager. Forcing herself to calm down, she turned to Dave. You don't mind waiting for us a bit, do you, Dave? I waited until we were outside before I shot you. Do you know how expensive Brazilian hardwood floors are? I'm not going to clean the blood off them. We'll be right back. She led the big man into her son's room and laid him on the bed. When he bent over, she put the gun to his ass. Where's my housekeeper? The thought of getting shot in the ass scared the guy half to death. She wasn't offended. She got a message from your number to take the day off. You wanted to be with your husband. She filed it away in her mind. It all seemed too well planned to be the idea of the two she was dealing with. Dave had to be helped back to the van. He groaned in pain. The big man looked at her with a fierce hatred. She surprised him by shooting him in the thigh. He screamed, Oh, shut up. I didn't nick an artery. You won't bleed out, but it'll be a while before you can run again. That's too bad. In about 3 hours, when my husband gets home, I'll tell him about my interesting day and show him the video. You won't be able to hide anywhere, under any rock. He will find you, and when he does, what I did to you will seem like a walk in the park. He'll never forgive you for touching his son. So shoo, try to hide. If I know my husband and his team, they will start counting how many hours it will take to find you, and how many hours will pass before he decides to put you out of your misery. She waved her hand slightly dismissively. Come on, Shu. Every minute lost will bring him one more minute closer to you. Thank you for an exciting morning. She watched them drive away, then walked back to the deck and stopped to look at the bloody boards. She went inside and called the construction company, where she was assured that the boards would be replaced by the next afternoon. She checked on her son and made sure he was okay. His steady breathing calmed her, and she went to the kitchen to call her husband. Did you see it? Her husband tried to suppress a laugh. When the alarm clock went off, he automatically alerted his computer and turned on the streaming. He watched everything that was happening. "Well played, Lieutenant. The team will be there in 20 minutes. I'm sure you saw the laser light on his chest once or twice. They had orders not to interfere until you gave the signal." "Shouldn't have promised time. The team is now on them. They went to a vet, obviously an acquaintance. He turned them down until they got their guns." She kept her tone neutral. "I thought it would distract you a bit, Major." She could hear the anger vibrating through the tube. "They kidnapped my son and intended to rape my wife. Do you think I'm feeling sporty?" She had seen him twice in that state. She knew that no argument in the world could hold him back. "No, honey, I haven't. Will you be home for dinner?" 6 to a point. "I love you, darling. And I you, more than I can express." She went to check on her baby. He was awake. "What happened, Mom?" "I was waiting for Mrs. James to take me to school, and some guy came to the door. Then I woke up here." "You're sick, honey. It must be a virus. A man came by to upgrade our cable, and he helped me put you to bed. How are you feeling?" He was rubbing his head, saying it hurt. She gave him baby Tylenol and fiddled with him all day. When their father came home, he hugged them both a little tighter than usual. The man known as Dave sat in a pain-induced fog and listened to his wife's rant. "One little woman and you let her shoot you? You're a wuss, Dave. A real man would have shoved a gun up her ass. You didn't mean to do that, did you? You were thinking of sticking something else up there, weren't you? I know you're playing with them. It don't matter, as long as you bring the money home." She was throwing things into suitcases, packing computers. It was time to move. Usually they'd come to town, score 2 points and leave. This was their first attempt in this neighborhood, and it was unsuccessful. It was the first failure in 9 attempts. She had a target, 4 million. It would allow her to retire to some island, preferably without an extradition treaty, and live well. She wasn't going to share that amount with Dave or his friend. She'd give them a few thousand here and there, just enough to keep them motivated. She was sure that as soon as she left, they would try again and fail. Prison would most likely await them. They left the van. It was stolen anyway. She didn't know it already had GPS and listening devices installed. It was a month before Dave and his buddy got strong enough to try another score, and they were still moving slowly. When they tried to snatch the child, they were surrounded by 5 men in tactical gear. No identification was offered. 3 more grabbed the woman. Ken looked into the cell. It was in the basement. The woman sat up when the lights were turned on. She had been there for 5 days, and the light was on for 2 hours when she was fed. The rest of the time she spent in total darkness. She was stripped naked, and the temperature was kept at 58 degrees. She shivered for 2 days before she acclimatized. She was fed 1,500 calories a day and had already lost 6 pounds. No one said a word to her the whole time. They just slid the trays through the door and took the empty trays away later. He led her into the interrogation room, still naked. He examined her critically. In her 30s, perhaps pretty, if she was well dressed and wearing a little makeup. She sat, crouched, and he stared at her. The silence lasted 5 minutes before she spoke. "You're welcome." He sat for a few more minutes before she spoke again. "What, please?" "Please help me. Get me some clothes. Let me talk to a lawyer. I'm pleading guilty. Please." He stared at her for a second, then unclenched one hand. He handed her a bottle of water and an apple. She surprised him by eating the apple slowly, with obvious pleasure. "Do you know who I am?" "No, sir." "I am the husband of the woman who shot your associates, the father of the boy you kidnapped." She turned pale. "Please, we didn't hurt anyone. It was only for the money." He was going through the papers on his desk. "Let's see. You stole a little over 3 million from 8 families. 2 lost their businesses. 1 woman committed suicide. We recovered all their money, but by then it didn't matter. 8 women were raped. There were 3 divorces. Do you still think you didn't hurt anyone?" She sank to the floor in defeat. "What are you going to do to me?" "I don't know yet. Maybe you'll get your wish. It'll be warm and tropical. You'll even have a view of the beach. Unfortunately, the view will be through a chain-link fence. You'll be very popular as the only woman there." She turned pale. "Please don't. I'll do anything." He smiled. "Be careful. Anything includes a lot of things. There are other agencies that may be interested in you. It won't be a very pleasant life, and it may take years, but in the end, you will be able to live a different life." "I'll take it." she sobbed. "Please don't take me back to the dark." She looked up as she was led away. "I'm sorry." He nodded, thinking, "You will, for years to come." Dave lifted his head, blinking against the sunlight. "Where are we?" The guard laughed. "Beautiful Cuba. Enjoy your vacation." That night he curled up in a ball on his bunk and became restless. Soon he was surrounded. "Look, Faisal, a gift. Shall we show her our favorite poses?" He opened his mouth to scream, but then something was shoved in his mouth. "No teeth!" the voice hissed. Ken snuggled up to Melinda, enjoying the fire and watching the snowfall. Kenny was barely awake, thinking about sledding with his friends the next day. He stroked her cheek gently. "What did they say when they got the money back?" "Most of them were happy. Some were so destroyed that it didn't matter. All of them were happy that they had been caught." "Where are they now?" He grinned, glad she couldn't see his expression. "The big one was stupid enough to fight. He had 8 wounds. Any one of them would have been fatal. I don't know which agency took the woman. I don't care. Dave went to Gitmo. I'm sure both of them will be spending quite a bit of time on their knees in the near future." "Good." She reached up and kissed him. Then she did something that was almost impossible to do. She surprised her husband. "Honey, I went to the doctor today. It's a girl." Friends, the story I want to share today takes us headlong into themes of family, love, but also relentless violence and despair. We see Melinda, the one who begins her morning with love and tenderness, spent in the company of her beloved husband and son, and who is suddenly confronted with a grim reality. Her peaceful and idyllic life is disrupted by the intrusion of a stranger who threatens everything that is dear to her. The passage poignantly emphasizes the theme of female strength and determination. Melinda, facing the personification of her worst nightmare, embodies the uncompromisingness and courage that often goes unnoticed in everyday life. When she has to protect her son, she demonstrates an inner strength that many might underestimate. She becomes a kind of modern-day heroine, fighting not only for her family, but also for her principles and justice. It's an eye-opening lesson in the complexity of human nature and the extremes to which we can go to protect our loved ones. For a more complete immersion in the story, and for those who want to know all the details of this fascinating story, I remind you that the uncensored version is available on our Patreon, where you will find even more material for reflection and analysis. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel to follow the further development of events and immerse yourself in the atmosphere of these incredible twists of fate. Take care of yourself and your loved ones.